Welcome to today's class on saving and being a thrifty saver, third in the series of 6 classes on personal financial literacy. I'm Tom Carlton, and I've been instructing classes with adults for over 5 years at WorkSource, mainly revolving around topics like job search and workplace soft skills, including conflict management, teamwork, personal workplace accountability, communications, as well as a little on personal finance. Please turn to page 25 in your participants guide. This is an optional pre-training survey you can take, and then at the end of the class there's a post-training survey to test what you've learned. You may pause the presentation to complete their survey and return when you are ready. Today we will discuss how to create a spending and savings plan, and then we'll talk about ways to increase income and decrease expenses. You'll use a monthly spending and savings plan to guide how you use your money. A spending and savings plan helps you compare your income and expenses, understand where your money is going, and adjust and guide how you use your money so you can meet your goals. It's frequently called a budget. We covered some of the basics last class. Already giving you the tools to budget and 4 types of budgeting plans. Now we are going to break down some of the fundamentals of how to make a spending and savings plan so it's clear we are planning for how we're spending our money and how we're saving our money. I'm curious who's been working on using one of the budget templates, mint.com, and/or one of the 4 types of budget plans discussed in last class. If you haven't, I recommend you go back and do so. An article related to our topic today comes from America Saves website. 6 Steps to Establishing a Spending and Savings Plan by Carolyn Pemberton. Her step 1 is to collect all needed documents and information before getting started with a spending and savings plan tool to gather up all the following documents and information for ease of completion. Pay stubs may also be referred to as your last year's W-2s. 1099s for freelance or gig workers. Bank or credit union statements. You may have to print them from an online account. Mortgage statements or rent bills. Household bills, including utilities, garbage, phone or cell phone, internet provider, credit card bills, other loan statements like auto or student loans, insurance premiums, auto, life, health, renters or home. The home you would include if it's not in your mortgage statement. Streaming service and subscription bills. Any others come to mind? Just add them in. Turn to Apply It, Making My Spending and Savings Plan on page 4 in your participant guide. Creating your own spending and savings plan takes time, so we're going to dive into greater detail and complete activities that should make these more meaningful to you. It provides an opportunity to find ways to increase income and decrease expenses. But first, let's look at the blank spending and savings plan that starts on page 4 of your participant's guide. Now you can complete this one on your own with your own information after today's training. Spending and savings plans bring together too many topics from last class. Income, money you receive, including earned income, income from assets and investments, public benefits or entitlements that pay money, other benefits or entitlements that primarily offer benefits other than money, other income such as gifts, child support, and alimony, expenses, how you use your income. Remember, saving, sharing, and spending. We're going to talk about and practice putting information about income and expenses into an overall monthly plan. Filling out my spending and savings plan. There are 3 sections: my net income, my expenses, comparison. The steps to fill it out: complete past monthly amount, complete planned monthly amount, compare total net income and total expenses, and if needed, make changes. Don't just copy your income and expenses from last month and make them your planned amount. For example, you may want to put more money into emergency savings. You may be able to cut back spending on groceries and household supplies to make that change. You may be able to cut out an expense altogether. For example, you could spend less money on cable/satellite/TV viewing services by switching to a different plan or canceling it altogether, and then use that money to pay down debt instead. Be sure the amount you cut back on or eliminate is realistic for you. Generally, only include income you can depend on. You can create your own spending and savings plan using this Apply It after today's training. Use it to determine if you need to adjust your income and/or your expenses to better meet your financial goals. When you compare my total net income minus my total expenses, if the difference is 0, your income equals your expenses. Positive, you have more income than expenses, and of course negative, you have more expenses than income. Now we're going to practice on someone else's spending and savings plan. Turn to Try It, Making a Spending and Savings Plan on page 9 in your participant guide. Read the scenario, and then take a few minutes to review Shelley and Walter's spending and savings plan. Complete the table on page 12, and then answer the questions as well. And when you've completed that, please return to the presentation. Okay, now turn to page 13, your participant guide. Apply it using my spending and savings plan. This blank spending and savings plan has 3 sections: my net income, my expenses, and comparison of my total net income and total expenses. And the steps, of course, to fill it out are: 1, complete the column called past monthly amount, complete the column called planned monthly amount for fill in the blank for the month, compare your total net income and total expenses, and 4th step, if needed, make changes to the income and expenses you have in the planned monthly amount column so that your income covers your expenses. Daily and weekly ideas. Daily ideas include recording your savings, sharing, and spending. Saving your receipts is a good first step. In addition to using receipts to track your uses of income, you can use them to check debit and credit card statements. There are also several apps and websites that can help you track your spending. Last class, the Budget Templates and Mint.com app and website, for instance. Collecting your change. Drop your spare change into a jar. This can help you build savings and keep your pockets or purse free of loose change. You probably have other ideas for using spending and savings plan daily. Weekly. Ideas that could come for weekly. Last week was putting limits on spending, such as using the envelope method. Label envelopes for categories of spending that you want to limit, such as groceries and household supplies, or eating out or takeout. Using your savings and spending plan, estimate how much you will need for each category for a week. Put those amounts in your envelope at the beginning of each week. Use only what's in the envelopes for your spending. When the cash in the envelope runs out, wait until next week's allotment of cash before spending more. And if you have cash left over in your envelopes at the end of the week, consider putting that money into savings. The envelope works particularly well for expenses because you have more control over how much you spend on those items. Establishing a weekly money check-in, set aside a convenient time and day of the week for you and your members of your household to review your actual spending against your spending and savings plan. Adjust your spending and/or your plan for the next week. You'll probably have other ideas for using spending and savings plan on a weekly basis, possibly some type of variable expense. Monthly ideas include conducting a monthly review. Review records of your spending for the past month using an app, receipts, or your own log of spending. Compare how your spending and savings plan did and did not reflect what you spent. Reflect on what you want to do differently next month and create a spend and savings plan for next month that's realistic and aligns with how you want to use your money. Having a monthly goal setting session. Have each family or household member write one or more goals for their spending and savings in the coming month. Be sure to also review progress toward the previous month's goals. Celebrating successes. There are many ways to celebrate success. For example, you could declare a family or household member to be the money manager of the month based on the person's success at saving money or spending less during the month. Preparing for taxes. At the end of the month, identify expenses that may be important for tax time. Make sure to save the evidence of these expenses, such as receipts, invoices, or screenshots of online payments. Do you have other ideas using your spending and savings plan on a monthly basis? Add those to your plan. You may be able to increase your income, which will help you cover your expenses or increase the amount of money you can save or share. Some activities may provide more income once or occasionally, such as selling items in a garage sale. Some activities may provide more income on an ongoing basis, such as taking on a part-time second job. Some activities may be long-term. You may have to devote some time before the strategy will generate income, such as participating in a local workforce development program. It may help you develop skills to fill in high-demand jobs and increase your income over the long term. Can you think of ways to increase your income? Add those to your list. Some other things that might come to mind: selling items on your own online include where or how. Using your talents or hobbies to make items to sell online. Getting a second job. Getting a seasonal job, outdoor work in the summer or retail during the end of the year holiday season, for instance. Doing odd jobs such as providing childcare, doing yard work, making deliveries, or running errands. Renting a room in your home if you have extra space and doing so is allowed in your community. Screening for additional public benefits. Filing taxes to get additional federal or state tax credits. Getting on-the-job training. Going back to school for a certificate or degree. Increasing income. Can you help cover your expenses and save or share? You could sell something once, occasionally, like at a few garage sales. Ongoing as part of a second job. Long-term workforce development. What are other ways you can increase your income? Think about that. You may be able to decrease your expenses, which will free up some of your income. Recall from last class, to decrease expenses, you need to think carefully about your needs, wants, and obligations. Needs are things you must have to live. Wants are things you desire and can live without. Obligations are debts you owe. Because borrowed money, such as a car loan or mortgage, made another type of agreement to pay them, such as for rent, or were ordered to make them, such as child support. Then think about 3 strategies. Conserve. What can you get cheaper or use less of? Adjust. What can you renegotiate over a longer term? Or do without what you can eliminate, either right away or over the long term. So think about some ways you can conserve to reduce expenses. And pause to reflect on that. And welcome back. If you frequently eat out, consider packing a lunch instead of preparing meals in advance and eating at home for dinner. Conserve energy to cut on utility costs. For example, you might be able to turn off lights, unplug electronics that keep using power even when they're powered down. Adjust the thermostat. Try to use less heat and air conditioning if possible. Raise your family's awareness about ways to use less water, such as fixing leaky faucets as quickly as possible. Shop carefully. Compare prices before buying, especially for costly items like cars and large appliances. Coupons or sales may not save as much money as you might expect. For example, they won't save you money if they lead you to purchase more costly brands or items you don't normally buy, or to avoid shopping around. However, if something you regularly buy is on sale and truly costs less than what you normally pay, consider buying more than you usually buy. But only do that if you have space to store the extra amount and it will not spoil before you can use it. Consider store brands and bulk to reduce food costs. But be sure not to overbuy items in bulk. This can create food waste if the food expires before you can use it. Make shopping lists to avoid impulse buying, but only what you need, not what you want. Make sure you're not paying too much for financial services. If you have an account at a financial institution, make sure you understand the rules of the account. Use automated teller machines, ATMs, that are part of the financial institution's network. Consider how you can reduce the risk of paying overdraft fees. So what are some ways to adjust expenses? Some of your expenses might be fixed for now, but perhaps you can adjust them over time. Think about some ideas. Go ahead and pause, write those down, and come back. Welcome back. Consider adjusting your phone bill. For example, less data or different carrier. Consider a less costly way to watch television. Compare online viewing, cable, satellite, streaming services, antennas, and other alternatives. Explore federal student loan repayment options if you have student loans and are struggling to pay them on a regular basis. Move to a less expensive housing situation. Can you name some expenses that might be eliminated? Keep in mind that some of them might be difficult choices, but still possible for some people. Go ahead and pause and return when you've come up with some ideas. Welcome back. Pay your bills on time to avoid late fees and other costs of paying late. Eliminate check cashing fees by opening an account at a financial institution and setting up direct deposit. Borrow books at the library instead of buying them. Look at your subscription, such as magazines, online video streaming services, cable, satellite, to see what you can cut. Review memberships, such as gym memberships or organizational memberships. If you're not using them, you can cut them out. Review your mail, credit card statements, and checking account statements for expenses that get charged on a recurring basis. Consider whether you still get value from each product or service. Also find out if you may already be receiving the same benefits elsewhere or if you can negotiate a better deal with the company. If you have both a landline and a cell phone, consider whether you need both, and if you don't, then cancel one. Here are a few additional tips that can help decrease expenses. Don't carry cash or only a small amount. You'll be less tempted to spend it. Avoid shopping for fun unless you have a strong-willed control or have budgeted for it. Carry your written savings goals as a reminder when shopping. And track your spending on paper or a mobile app. Now, please turn to Try It, Adjusting a Spending and Savings Plan on page 17 of your Participants Guide. A spending and savings plan does not stay the same every month. It must change to reflect your reality. That's why it can be a useful tool. It can help you decide where you need to change things. Adjusting it doesn't mean you have a bad plan. So let's return to Shelley and Walter and their spending and savings plan. When we compared their monthly income and expenses, we saw their net income was not enough to cover their expenses. We can now think of ways they can adjust their spending and savings plan by increasing income and decreasing expenses. You may not know for sure if your ideas will work for Shelley and Walter, but you can make suggestions given their priorities. So take a few minutes and answer the questions. And you may want to turn back to try it, making a spending and savings plan on page 9 of your participant's guide. Go ahead and pause here, work on that. Welcome back. How can Shelley and Walter increase their income? I hope you've come up with a few ideas, and here are some you may or may not have. Increase Walter's freelance hours doing accounting, work more on their regular jobs if available, consider one-time activities like selling things they don't need. Now, how can Shelley and Walter decrease their expenses? Hopefully you came up with some good ideas. Here are some that have come up in the past. Since they're in a city, they might be able to save money by getting rid of their car, the payments and the repairs, and using public transportation and ride-sharing services instead. Since they're using a lot of heating and cooling, depending on their health conditions, they may be able to set the thermostat to cool and heat a little less, especially when they're not at home. And they could decrease the amount of money they spend on entertainment or eating out. Here are a few articles to help you have additional ideas on where to save money. 7 Frugal Habits to Save Money by Evelyn Waugh. 54 Ways to Save Money by America Saves. How to Save Money, 23 Tips by Ramsey Solutions. 20 Creative Ways to Save, U.S. News and World Report by Jeff Williams. 99 Great Ways to Save from AARP by Beth Braverman and David Schiff. Try to find a few of those that you can use for yourself. We'll now discuss what to do when you don't have enough money to pay all your bills in full and on time. What are some reasons people might not have enough money to pay bills even if they regularly use a monthly spending and savings plan? Take a few minutes to write down some ideas. Pause the presentation and start it when you're done. Welcome back. Here are some ideas. You may have to pay health or medical expenses unexpectedly due to illness or injury, or your income may be reduced if you miss work. You lose your job or work fewer hours than expected. You must replace or repair something you need to work, such as a car you drive to work or hearing aid. A family member has an emergency, and you give them some of your money you plan to use to pay your bills. A loved one dies suddenly, or you get divorced and lose household income. Back to school costs catch you by surprise. You pay for car insurance or your water bill twice a year and lose track of the payment due date. A severe storm in your area meant you had to evacuate and you incurred expenses such as for transportation or having to pay more for food since you couldn't cook at home. You don't earn enough money to cover all your expenses. Even if you plan carefully, you can run into a situation where there isn't enough money for you to pay bills. The list that we just talked about includes situations that affected your income, giving you less money to use for what you need. The list also included situations that affected your expenses, some of those being unexpected costs. Others are expenses you pay every few months or once a year but have forgotten about or are higher than expected. When your income is less than usual, or you've had an unexpected expense, your regular bills and living expenses don't stop. When you can see that you're coming up short to pay your bills and living expenses, there are a few things you can do. You can try to find ways to increase income or decrease expenses. You can also contact your creditors about your situation. They may give you extra time to pay or otherwise work with you. You may be able to change the due date for payments to one that is closer to when you receive income. You can reach out for help not only from family and friends, but also from community-based organizations and public agencies, like Community Action. These organizations and agencies may have programs that can help you with your situation. If you try these things and still can't pay all your bills in full when they're due, prioritize what to pay first based on what might happen if you don't pay them. This concept is huge, prioritizing based on what might happen. So you're making choices. Pay in full, pay partially, pay late. Pay attention to the consequences that prevent you from earning income, jeopardize your shelter, impact health or ability to live independently, and could result in loss of your assets. We spoke briefly about this topic last class. Now pause the video and answer this question. What are some of the consequences of not paying your rent and return when you're finished? Welcome back. Some things that might happen: late fees, eviction if you cannot catch up soon, strain on your relationship with your landlord, stress, possible issues in renting your next place if the landlord reports late payments to the credit reporting agency. Now, what are some of the consequences of not paying a car payment? Again, pause and return when you have a response. Welcome back. Late fees, repossession, loss of your car if you cannot catch up soon, problems getting to work and other places you and your family need to go if you lose your car, and negative information on your credit reports and drop in your credit scores. There's another question. What are some of the consequences of not paying an annual fee for a license related to your profession? For instance, assume that you're a self-employed electrician and cannot work without the license. Take some time to answer that, pause the presentation, and return. Welcome back. Some of the answers might be loss of income, time and effort to regain the license, damage to your professional reputation if you cannot perform the work you agreed to perform. Here's another question. What are some consequences of not paying a magazine subscription bill? Again, pause the presentation and return. Welcome back. Consequence, the cancellation of your subscription. Not a big consequence in that case. Now, please turn to Apply It, Prioritizing My Expenses on page 20 in your participant guide. You can use this worksheet after today's training when money is short and you must choose which expenses to pay first. The Apply It includes an example. A phone bill for $50 is due January 5th. This person cannot pay it on time and in full this month, so they call the creditor. In this case, the phone company. They found out that they may be charged a late fee and their phone service might be cut off, but until the bill is unpaid for 2 months. That information helps them to prioritize this bill as a number 4. Presumably, they have 3 other bills with more serious consequences for non-payment. They will have to pay this phone bill eventually, but perhaps not this month. They did not have to reach out to anyone else for help, so they put a no in the Ask for Help column. Remember, prioritize which bills to pay first when money is short. Here's another way to make Tough choices in tight months. It comes from consumerfinance.gov. This tool helps you to understand what might happen if you fall behind in your obligations, how to assess the trade-offs, how to make a plan to pay for your month's most important bills. It talks about what you do when you call a creditor to tell them why. And sometimes you're able to negotiate a particular bill with a new due date, and timing matters. The consequence for paying bills late can vary depending on how late you are. Utility and credit card payments received within 30 days of their due date typically don't affect your credit report. After 60 days, however, companies may choose to raise the interest rate on your balance, which may take it longer to pay off what you owe. One strategy is actually to rotate which bills you pay each month. Although not ideal, this can help prevent you from losing your car, your house, having your utilities closed off, and getting into serious default on a loan. And then of course you can look into additional resources. A couple it has listed: the HUD, Office of Housing and Counseling, and the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Additionally, on the same document or website, talks about how to weigh the risks and prioritize. So things like I need to keep to get a job, insurance I need to pay for, things I need to stay housed and keep utilities connected. And for that one, the cost of losing a place to live up adds up fast, and late payment on your mortgage or an eviction can make it harder to find a new place if you need one. Additionally, has obligations they need to pay. And the tip: consider any legal consequences for delaying payment. Remember, credit card companies may raise your interest rate if you pay more than 60 days late. And then it has a section for prioritizing from highest priority to lowest priority for your bills. Responding to creditors. This tool helps you take actions to verify whether the debt is actually valid and know how to dispute the debt if you don't owe it, and what to do next if you do owe. It lists the rights that you have. It gives you where to submit a complaint to, a website, and it has additional resources for you as well. Actions to take with your creditors. Has a nice little checklist with some additional details. If you're not sure about the debt amount, ask for information, and it gives you the list of what you need. And mentions be cautious no matter what debt collectors say. You don't have to give sensitive information like your social security number or bank account numbers. And then of course keep records of it. Dates, times, and notes for every call. Save every debt collector, everything from them. The original copies of anything you send them. This will help you if you have to have a dispute or go to court. And then as far as resolution, if the debt is not legitimate, don't delay in disputing the debt, go right to that. If the debt's legitimate, don't despair. At least you know what you're dealing with and you still have options. You can try to settle the debt with a collector for a smaller amount to fully resolve the account. You can do this by yourself, or you can use a third party to assist you. You can negotiate a payment plan, give you time to pay down the debt, or you can pay the debt in full and move on. Now, if you're sued by a debt collector, be sure that you respond to any court documents. It has additional details and recommendations. And then it has another helpful piece has contact information and a little checklist that you may want to use. They have for that as well. Now, who else can help you? It gives you resources about paying utility bills, how to find a job, deal with debt, get a response, bank and debt collectors, find a lawyer, explore healthcare programs. Gives you some key questions to ask. And then some of those questions, if you answer yes to, then you want to consider finding different resources. And if you answer no on the other 3 questions, you might want to find a different place to seek information. Because it's important to get accurate, up-to-date information from unbiased individuals and organizations that don't try to sell you a product or service, don't ask you to pay up front, are able to show you the impact of any actions you take that affect your financial situation. And of course, here are the actual resource cards. They cover a number of areas. For instance, need help with housing or paying utility bills, gives you a couple of contacts there and leaves space for your own local resources you could add in. Help finding a job, dealing with debt, a lawyer, needing help with healthcare bills, need help with benefits, need help getting a bank collector to respond. And of course, again, you can add your own individual resources on there. Well, this is getting toward the end of the presentation now. We recommend that you take the time to look in your activity participant guide and answer the following questions so that you can get benefits from today's class. What will I do? How will I do it? Will I share my plans with anyone? And if so, who? And remember, use a monthly spending and savings plan to guide how you use your money and prioritize which bills to pay first when money is short. Thank you for attending this training, your spending and savings plan. You can take a few minutes now to take the post-training survey, the questions, and then of course the feedback that you give us. The answers to the survey questions. Number 1, the answer is false. Number 2, the answer is C. Number 3, the answer is A. Number 4, the answer is F. Next class, we'll cover retirement savings and investing for your future. We'll discuss various investment and savings options, such as savings accounts, certificates of deposit, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Each option has its own risk and return profile, and it's essential to understand these factors before making investment decisions. Recall, it is important to align your budgeting and financial plans with your personal values and goals. You'll also learn how you'll want to adjust based on your risk tolerance and investment timeline.